It is 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Western European Time, 10 p.m. Central European Time, 11 p.m. Eastern European Time, midnight further Eastern European Time. I am a Swede Speaks, and we are live on YouTube. Thank you all for being here. I live stream every Saturday on the same time as today, and I try to make midweek live streams on either Tuesday or Thursday at the same time. As you will see, there has been a lot of things going on in the world with Trump, with Korea, with the free speech rally coming up in London tomorrow. I wish I could be there, but sincerely, I really doubt that will happen. And also with the gang violence here in Oslo, Norway during the last few months. I will comment on these things and some other things in this live stream. I was going to live stream 2 days ago, but technology didn't work. I think I messed something up, and I'm really sorry about that. So I would like to wish everyone welcome, and God bless everyone in the chat. And hey, if you're a praying person, please make sure to keep me in your prayers. I hope that everyone will have a good time and enjoy themselves in this live stream. And if you want to support my work, which of course I recommend you to do, you can send a super chat by clicking the little dollar sign under your name in the chat, or you can donate through PayPal or Patreon. You can also buy some of my merchandise. That's all greatly appreciated, and there are links for that in the box below this live stream. Check out my website to keep up with the things that I do. There's a link to that one too in the box below. I will read out super chats as long as you keep them clean. I don't want to get this channel flagged, so please, no anti-Semitism, no actual racism, no cursing, and for the record, being anti-Islam is not racism, but inciting towards Muslims is a bad idea. So again, thank you for being here. God bless you. Pray for me and support me if you like what I do. And we have 10 people in the chat, which is wonderful. And I would like to look at the first story. I would like to talk about the Nobel Peace Prize for US President Donald Trump. As you know, I am in no way neutral on the issues, especially not in my live streams. I use these live streams to give you my perspective and to connect with you. And I see that I'm not the only reporter doing this. Tim Pool did the same thing a few days ago. He gave us some stories. He gave us his opinion on them. I asked him to come to Oslo, but I will talk about Oslo a little later. So now, let's focus on Trump for a while. What a lot of leftists don't get is that Trump is a negotiator. That's what he did with North Korea. By going after North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, calling him Rocket Man, and by not backing down, he brought North Korea to the negotiation table. We have seen what happened with this situation. North Korean dictator Kim met with South Korean President Moon. They visited each other's countries. Kim even joked about the poor state of North Korea, and they agreed to formally end the Korean War. Hopefully, Kim will live up to this. In any case, President Trump has been able to do what no US president, and no other world leader either for that matter, did before him. For this, President Trump surely deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. He has been nominated by 18 Republican lawmakers who sent the nomination to the Norwegian Peace Prize Committee. I hope they will listen. However, I sincerely doubt they will, and this is why. The Norwegian Peace Prize Committee is appointed by the Norwegian Parliament. The committee has 5 members. 2 of them belong to the Labour Party, 1 of them belongs to the Centre Party. The Norwegian Centre Party is, in general, very left-wing. There is not a chance that this committee will give the Peace Prize to President Trump. There are 2 members who are somewhat conservatively minded. Henrik Syse, who is a member of the Conservative Party, which is a pseudo-conservative party, and the foreign policy scholar Asle Toje. The only one of the 5 members that might have anything good to say about President Trump is Asle Toje. Toje actually wrote about fear and loathing of Donald Trump last year, an article in which he comments on moral panic and how elites are susceptible of collective moods. But apart from Asle Toje, none of them could be able to say anything good about Donald Trump. And let's not forget about past peace prizes. US President Barack Obama, the EU, and Yasser Arafat, just to mention a few. But of course, I sincerely hope that I'm wrong on this one. And well, there are still 10 people here, and that's great. So I'll have a look at the chat before I go on. Uh, I see, well, William Marshall is here, Assyrian King, Laurie P, Niels Carlson. Hello to all of you, and thank you all for being here. Uh, and let's see, Assyrian King says something. Looking forward to the big march tomorrow. Yeah, I look forward to following the live stream. So I hope it will be a good thing. And I hope you won't get disturbed by any thugs, but I think the Football Lads Alliance, they're probably people you don't want to mess with. So, yeah, thank you for being here. Like this live stream, share it on social media, send it to family and friends, please. You know that without you, I wouldn't be able to do this, so I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. So, the next thing I want to talk about is the Oslo conditions. I intend to make a video about this in a few days, but I would like to mention it now too. During the last few months, there has been gang violence in parts of Oslo East. It started about a year ago. And in Oslo, there's an organization known as the Night Ravens, Natteravnene in Norwegian, and they started walking around at night in the neighborhoods of Vestli and Stovner on Oslo East. The Night Ravens is an organization that walks around at night. Their idea is that the presence of sober adults will make situations less tense and that people will avoid committing crimes when they see them. They have had some success in different Scandinavian cities, in Norway, in Sweden, in Denmark, in the Faroe Islands, and on Greenland, but it didn't work at all in these Oslo East neighborhoods, Vestli and Stovner. Instead, recently, when the Night Ravens were walking around in the area between Vestli and Stovner, they were attacked by youngsters who threw stones at them, and they had to run away. Before that, they had observed drugs being sold outside a local pizza place, Domino's Pizza at Stovner. Also, recently, masked youngsters threw snowballs at police at Wesley Square. And then, last weekend, there was a shooting outside another local restaurant by Wesley Square, a restaurant called Mathus. And thank God, and I mean it, nobody died. But that is the situation in that part of Oslo now. And there has been gang violence in other parts of Oslo too, including a murder in the neighborhood of Holmlia recently. And speaking of Holmlia, there was a meeting there at Holmlia School a few months ago with then Justice Minister Sylvi Listhaug, where she was verbally attacked by a leftist teacher and booed at by some of the people there. She was told that she was more dangerous to Holmlia inhabitants than local thugs. After that, this murder happened. So who are they going to blame now? Are they going to blame the sitting Justice Minister, Tor Mikkel Wara, who has said that he is concerned about the situation in parts of Oslo? And by the way, when I visited Vestli a few days ago, I noticed that now there is police presence there. So I spoke to the police officers. They stand there with a police van at day, and they said that at night they drive around to patrol the area. I certainly hope they do, and that they don't hesitate to arrest criminals. I hope they will be able to get the situation under control. In the last few days, the Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg visited Stovner police station in Oslo, one of these areas, and she said that the situation is worse than last year. I also heard today that the Night Ravens are back on Stovner and Vestli after increased police presence. I think Norway needs tougher laws, permanently armed police officers, and also I think that law-abiding citizens should be allowed to own and carry arms. I will comment more on this in the beginning of next week. So, this is what's going on in the Norwegian capital. Sad, but true. Well, as you see, there are things going on in my home city since I have lived in Oslo since 2006. Things have gotten worse since I moved here, I can tell you that. I have been doing some on the ground research in the last few days, and I will use some of it in my comment on the Oslo conditions that I intend to produce and upload in a few days, on Monday, I hope. So, again, if you want to support my work, please do. And before I move on, I will have a look at the chat. And while I'm at it, maybe you could tell me, I think I sort of know most of the people here, but, well, feel free to, well, where do you people come from? I mean, which countries or which cities or, yeah, whatever you want to tell me. William Marshall says, hello, my good man. Well, hello to you too. And Lori P says, I think Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize far more than Obama did. That's true. And actually, I think that the, pre- the former chairman of the Peace Prize Committee actually said he regretted giving the Peace Prize to Obama. So that's kind of funny, actually. Okay. While I wait for you to respond, I'll 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 talk a little about the upcoming free speech rally in London. Because tomorrow, Sunday, May 6th, there will be a free speech rally in Speaker's Corner, Hyde Park, London. I think that's where it's going to be at least. Assyrian King can probably correct me if I'm wrong here. I won't be able to be there, sadly. Uh, and I will follow live streams from that free speech rally, though. So Tommy Robinson is one of the organizers. The Football Lads Alliance will be there. Sikhs will be there. Ex-Muslims will be there. And as far as I understand, everyone who is in favor of free speech is welcome. Sargon of Akkad will be there. Milo Yiannopoulos will be there. He's a British national, so they can't stop him from coming. And according to what I heard, the British police is going to protect the rally. I don't trust the British police, sadly. But the Football Lads Alliance are big guys. You don't want to mess with them. Antifa and Islamists, beware, seriously. Lauren Southern won't be there in person, but she will be there through video link. At least that's what I heard. I think the UK is close to the breaking point, and I hope that the country that gave us Magna Carta and common law will become a free and prosperous country again, a place that welcomes open debate. I don't think it will happen overnight, but it seems like Britain is getting a large crowd of stubborn free speechers, so they might actually win. Remember, we don't need a majority. We need the 10 stubborn%, the people who won't back down and who will stand their ground. The left knows this, followers of Islam know this, and free speechers are learning this as we speak. Larisistan says, hi there, Swede speaks, Australia and Canada. Oh, are you from both places at the same time? That sounds interesting. Assyrian King says, I am looking forward to see an Antifa approach me. Yeah, I think if I was Antifa, I wouldn't try to attack you. But, well, I met you, so I know. I wouldn't try something crazy like that. And Lori P says, the UK needs to free themselves from that type of oppression. Okay. So, if you say straight out that you're an anti-Semite, you will be kicked off. And then I'm actually happy that you told me, so I don't need to deal with it later. So I guess I should say thank you. Deus Vult, I think we should avoid using slurs like mudslimes. It's better to just say that you don't want Islamic immigration or that you want Muslims to leave the West or assimilate. I would say that's a lot better approach. Stephen Cray says, hi Swede. Well, hello to you too. And how many are we here now? We are 14 people. That's not too bad. That's good. So I'm happy about that. Thank you all for being here. Dios World says, I want them all out. Yeah, well, absolutely. I don't want people who are not interested in assimilating. I agree with you on all of that. But, well, let's see. Laristan says both. I live back and forth for Swede Speaks, and I have a vested interest in New Zealand. New Zealand is being invaded too, big time. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. That might explain why my website has been trending in New Zealand recently. So that's interesting. While I look at the next thing I've got, maybe you could tell me what is your favorite video on this channel? Uh, and as you know, I couldn't do this without you. I depend on you. I'm very grateful that you're here. So get the likes up, share this live stream, send a super chat, keep me in your prayers, do all of that good stuff. It's all very much appreciated. There has also been some other news. Kanye West recently said that he wants to apologize to George W. Bush for his comments in 2005, when Kanye West said that Bush did not care about black people. This was during Hurricane Katrina. Recently, Kanye West said that, quote, "Do you know how bad I would want to go to George Bush and say I'm sorry for hurting you? I was an artist. I was hurting when I went up to the telephone. I said something in a moment, but when I look at you as a dad and a family member, I'm sorry for hurting you." Close quote. I find this very interesting. The things that have been going on with Kanye West recently are very interesting. I mean, sure, he could put up an act. At the same time, I know by my own experience that once you are red pilled, you can't go back. You can't unswallow the red pill, and Kanye West sounds like he has swallowed that pill. And also, it's kind of like burning bridges. You burn the bridges behind you when you walk that road, so you can't turn back because the bridge is no longer there. And also, it was reported that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently appointed Hanania Naftali, who is a Christian missionary, as a deputy new media advisor. Naftali is an ethnic Jew and a Christian believer. This means that Netanyahu, who is one of my favorite statesmen, gets a Christian believer really close to him. I think that's great. And the Swedish currency had been falling recently. A few weeks ago, 100 Norwegian kroner was worth 107 Swedish kroner. As of today, 100 Norwegian kroner is worth around 109 Swedish kroner. This might be good for Swedish export, but it's bad for import. This won't be good, and Swedes will get less for their money buying goods produced abroad or when they travel abroad. And of course, the trust in the Swedish economy takes a heavy hit. Let's see. Lori P says, I am not against the person's skin color, but Islam is against everyone who is not Islamic, which means all the rest of us. If people decide to practice Islam, they need to do it in an Islamic country. Yeah, I agree with that. Dios Wult says, nobody can assimilate Muslims, not even Muslims. Well, that's true. If you look at the situation in most Islamic countries, they are either failed states or terrible dictatorships. So yeah, I agree with you on that. Wildflower says, howdy Swede. Well, howdy to you too. Let's see. Assyrian King says, by the way, Swede, tomorrow one of the guy who has a channel, Reverend Simon Sideways, is preparing a large Christian prayer in retaliation to Muslims and the British police. Oh, that will be interesting. Because I don't know if everyone knows this, but there is a rule or a law against praying in the royal parks in England, or if it's just Hyde Park, I'm not sure. Assyrian King can probably correct me on this, but I know there is some kind of law on that, and there has been Muslim prayers going on, and nothing has been done to stop them. There's a video with this woman who tries to get the police to stop it. I think they were stopped at the end, but there was some problems with that. Yeah, right. I've been watching the Reverend Simon Sideways. I like some of his stuff. Well, I'm kind of undecided on him, but well, I think he's going to live stream the event tomorrow. So I hope I'll be able to watch the live stream as it goes. Otherwise, I will watch it after. I need to figure out with time when I'm going to be in church and stuff like that. Since it's Sunday, tomorrow. David Norton says, good evening, Sweden, everyone. Good evening to you too. Thank you for being here. And Sweden's eastern neighbor, Finland, is ending their experiment with universal basic income. Finland have had a limited experiment for a few years, but once they realized that a universal basic income for all Finnish citizens, percentage points, I think that was the number, they decided to drop it. And I was sort of pro basic income a year ago, but I changed my position on that because basically I don't think money for nothing is a good concept. Assyrian King says they were stopped, but now Muslims again sneaking out and pray, and police says they have not enough staff to stop them. I could see that. Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, by the way, what is the biggest news in the towns where you live? Laurie P says, cannot pray in a park in the UK? Really? Muslims drop to their knees and pray anywhere they want to. A Christian can pray inside their mind and heart, and no one can stop them from praying to God. Well, that's true. I mean, I can have a silent prayer wherever I am. That's absolutely true. Yeah, I think this when it comes to the British police, that's really sad. Or all of this stuff that's been going on in the UK with related to free speech. And a few days ago, a video showed up in my in the videos that YouTube sort of propose for you to watch. Proposed videos, I guess that's what it's called. And actually, I have been looking for this one, but I wasn't able to figure out how to spell this person's name. So Jonaya showed up. Jonaya is a black British lady, and she have been posting anti-Islam things online, and for this she has been threatened by Muslims. So she was going to report this to the police, and what happened was that the police told her that this could all be avoided if you haven't posted this stuff, and she said, "Well, I have freedom of speech, but it's illegal to threaten people." So I'm happy that showed up because I had been looking for that for this specific person, but I couldn't figure out how to spell her name. And the point here is that it doesn't really matter if you're white, black, brown, or whatever. If you're against Islam, you're in trouble. If you're in the UK or in Sweden. Assyrian King says Jonaya is a half caste. You mean she's part Indian or yeah? I don't know. La Resistance says the Sudanese in Australia and in Canada the Somali. Oh, I see. Well, I guess I will have to say that Sudan and Somalia, well, they have Islam in common. In Europe, there are a lot of people from the Middle East, Central Asia, and Northern Africa causing the troubles. And they look different. They don't all look the same, but they all have an Islamic mindset in common. Dios Wood said in London they just take a machete out and stab you to death. There have been some machete fights in Oslo actually. That's a while back now, maybe 6 months or something. But there have been some news about that. I am not going to explain my I'm not going to explain my rules for the chat again. If you haven't understood by now that I'm actually consistently anti-racist and consistently anti-Islam, well, in that case, I can't help you. Assyrian King says Swede half caste means he's half white and half black. Ah, okay. I thought it had something to do with India, but okay. Oh, okay. Well, in any case here, my point was that she's anti-Islam, and that doesn't fly well with the UK police. So I don't know if I missed any responses or something, but do you have a favorite video from this channel? And there are 20 people watching, which is good. So thank you for being here. And without you, there would be no me. At least I wouldn't be doing this, because talking to a screen without having anyone to respond to me and anyone to interact with, that would be kind of stupid, So thank you for being here. I really depend on you and your interaction. So I'm very happy that you're here. So that's all good. Lori P says Ohio has one of the biggest Muslim Somali communities in Columbus, about 60 miles from where I live. Part of Columbus looks like a third world country now. Well, I think it's about the same situation in part of Oslo. Although there are many different Islamic groups living in Oslo, and but none of them, I guess maybe you could argue, apart from maybe some people from the Balkans, have assimilated. However, the thing that makes some people from the Balkans seemingly assimilate is because they don't care about their religion at all. As soon as they start caring, well, they go just as crazy as the other ones. I have been told that there is actually radicalization going on in Bosnia, and I hope that will be turned around, but I've been told that's actually going on. So some people have told me that, well, Bosnians, they're not Muslims like the Muslims in the Middle East because they're Europeans. Well, yeah, but you have radicalization going on there too. So if you have any sort of Islamic mindset, you sort of have opened the door to all of this stuff. La Resistance says, thanks, Swede Speaks, for doing this. Well, thank you for your kind words, and thank you for being here. Lori P says, I love all the interviews. I also appreciate all the news of what's happening in Sweden and the Nordic countries in regards to Islam. Oh, good to know. I am doing This Week in Sweden every Friday. The one I uploaded yesterday was kind of late, so here it was actually Saturday morning, but well, in Ohio it was still Friday evening, I think, because well, I was a little late yesterday because I met with a friend, so well, things got delayed, but sometimes you have to do that stuff too. And I'm always happy to interview people, so I don't know if I'll be having anything coming up now. Maybe something shows up. We'll see. But there will be more interviews in the future, of course, but it might take a while. We'll see. La Resistance says, read Lord of the Flies. People recreate where they come from. Without the gospel, there cannot be civilization. That's a very good point. And because, one of the controversial things I say sometimes, or, well, some people don't like when I say this. But before the West was, well, Christianized, well, there was no West before it was Christianized. The West really is a Christian civilization. Without Christianity, the West falls. Anyway, well, look at the Vikings, for instance. They had human sacrifice. They had slaves. Unwanted children were put out in the woods for the wolves, stuff like that. They had plural marriages, and they went down to the European continent and raped and looted, and they brought slaves with them back to Scandinavia from the British Isles, from Eastern Europe, from many different places. But then they turned into Christians, and they stopped all this. Slavery was abolished. It was it was banned to put out unwanted children for the wolves. And they stopped killing old people, by the way. They did that too. They did a lot of crazy stuff. So yeah, I agree with that point. You need a gospel to have civilization. And I'm not saying everyone has to be a Christian. I would like, of course, that people were, but everyone does not necessarily need to be a Christian. But You need to have a Christian culture, and without actual Christians, this culture will die. You can't have a tree if you cut off the roots. Assyrian king says, "This is the moment of time that others like Germans, Swedes, and other European join out, march, and join to encourage the others who are scared." Yeah, people just need to be stop being scared. I know it sounds easy, doesn't it? Or it might sound hard. I don't know what to say. I guess I just think you need to do what you think is right. Let's see. Lori P says, "I like midweek updates, like hearing from people who are there on the scene, so to speak." Okay. Mark Edwards say, "I will also be going to the Day for Freedom event in London tomorrow. Can't wait." Oh, I really wish I would be there, but right now I can't really stretch my travel budget anymore. So, I mean, if I could, I would, but right now I can't. I'm really sad. Not sad, but it would be nice to be in London, but I can't do that right now. But maybe I'll get to go at some other freedom event in London or somewhere else in Europe. Uh, I have been I have been looking into the Oslo Freedom Forum. I sent them an email, just ask them what's going on because apparently that's coming up. I learned that from another YouTuber, so we'll see. But I can't make any promises because I don't know the details. I'll see if they respond and what they respond. But I really hope that the free what did you call it, the Day for Freedom in London tomorrow. I hope that will be a successful thing. I hope things will go orderly. That it will be you'll get your message out. You won't get disturbed by any crazy people, and well, I actually think that you probably don't need to worry too much about Antifa when you have the Football Lads Alliance. I hope I'm right about this. And well, the people I know, well, King, if you meet Tommy, send him my greetings. I really want to connect with him. Lori P said, "Swede, well put. You cannot have a tree without the roots." Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So yeah, thank you. Good that you. Well, I'm happy you like that. So we got Canada and Australia in here. I know we got the UK, the United States. I think we got Sweden in here, or we had before at least. Uh, do you have any stories from your hometowns or your areas? Let's see. Assyrian King says, "Swede, on of the way to silently and peacefully for the moment is to wear your crucifix." Oh, okay. Stop and boycott the halal and things like that. Well, yeah, I have a halal boycott going on. I mean, of course, or well, being me, that's obvious. And there is a store around here where it seems like they are only hiring girls in hijabs, and I'm not buying from that store. Not because I have anything against these girls in specific, but because if I give money to this store, they will hire these people who wear these symbols because I look at the hijab as a supremacist symbol, something like that. They are showing that they think they're better than us, and especially they think they're better than non-Islamic women. So I go to another store instead. I do stuff like that, and people tell me that I'm crazy and I shouldn't care, and I'm like, I'm not going there. Sorry. Stan says, "Hi Swede. I remember you mentioned you want to immigrate to the US before. How is it going with that?" Well, I'm moving forward, so hopefully I will be there in a not too distant future. but sometime in the summer, I would guess. I hope so. Uh, Based female says a farmer near my farm in Skåne put up a giant cross up on his barn. Oh, that's good. That's good, and yeah, that's good. A Syrian king said, "I love it, and it's my dream to meet Tommy. And believe me, I will do that, Swede. But sure, I will meet Simon tomorrow. I'm planning to connect you guys too. Yeah, I would be happy to speak to Simon too. I don't really know where he's at exactly, but I would be happy to talk to him and see if we have something, what we have in common, and if we are able to connect on some level. That would be wonderful. So thank you for all your help, King. Let's see. Joe Max says Hawaii is hot here in the USA. Oh, you live in Hawaii? That's great. I'd like to go there sometime. Maybe I will one day. I have a plan on visiting every US state and all the European capitals. We'll see, but that's my plan, or one of my plans. Paula P says, "Hello all, I just got here." Or I just got home. Oh, well, hello to you too. I'm not very fond of the talk of the Kalergi plan, so please don't do that. Because I know which kind of people usually uses these theories, and I'm not very fond of that. Stan says, "I'm from Toronto, Canada, by the way, and I'm also thinking of moving to the US, ideally Phoenix, Arizona. Which city do you plan to move to?" Well, actually, uh, I'm planning to move to a pretty small town, so I don't think I want to give out that information because there might be people watching who doesn't have my best interest in mind. I'll tell you, I am planning on moving to the Midwest, but I won't be any more specific than that. Let's see. Lori P says halal meat is cursed meat. I would boycott it too. They say Islamic prayers when they kill the animals, and they do not do it in a humane way anyway. Say no to anything halal. Yeah. Another thing about halal, at least in Norway, I assume it's the same thing in Sweden, probably in the UK too, but I don't know. But in Norway, if you buy halal, the Islamic Council of Norway have to approve this meat, and to approve it, they uh, they pay a lot of money to the Islamic Council. So if you buy halal, you're actually giving your money to the Islamic Council of Norway, and I don't want to do that. So that's another reason why I don't want to buy halal. Let's see. Paolo Forever 2 says something. Hi, a Swede speaks. You have overlooked my question already a couple of times. It's a quite important one too, so I repeat it. How much is the conversion rate to Islam in Sweden? I have heard of very few, well, to put it, native Swedes who convert. I think there are a few women who have converted before when they are married Muslims. That's not very common either, I think. I think it was actually more common a few decades ago. And I have heard of very few. If there are a few Swedes who have converted, but not many, I think. So I don't think the conversion rate is very high. I think it's more of a dhimmi mentality and an influx of Muslims. I think that's more the problem. A Syrian king says, "Hee haw, Swede, Midwest." Yeah, the Midwest is great. If you want to make sure that I read your messages, you can always send a super chat. I might miss your messages uh, because I'm trying to keep a. Lori P says, so Swedes don't convert, they just put up with the abuse. That's sad. It is sad. And I could be wrong, but I looked into it a few years ago, and there were a few Swedes who had converted or who were in the process of converting, but not many. And in Norway, there have been a few converts, not many, a few. Uh, One of them, or two of them, because of marriage, and some others, well, I don't know, because they thought it sounded like a good idea. Lori P says, I live in the Midwest. I love it compared to living in California. I would never move back to the West Coast, although I do think the Oregon coast is beautiful. Well, I hope to visit every US state, including California, but I don't think I would like to live in California. And California is actually a very interesting place because it used to be a good place, I think. And California actually elected Reagan as governor. If he probably did one or two bad things too, but he's in my book he's one of the good guys. But then California just went left, and now California is well, they're almost broke. I think it's a horrible situation, and they have all these homeless people. So I don't think things are going good there, and I think the problem with California is the same. Well, it's the same as with Sweden and other places that try socialism, and I guess they tried the soft version. If you try the hard version, you'll get Venezuela instead. Let's see. Perito Brodersen says, my husband's friend converted to Islam, a Swede speaks. Oh, a Swede speaks must have heard of famous uh, Volsmose terror base in Denmark. So he's that Danish convert Danish press was writing about, and he's nuts. Yeah, I think if you're nuts, Islam might be the way to go for you. I mean, seriously. And Volsmos, is that in Aalborg, Aarhus? I'm not sure. Or is it in Copenhagen? Oh, I'm a little confused. I saw something from Denmark a few days ago uh, about how the Danish government wants to well, they want to tear down the ghettos if they can't if they can't get assimilation going, or that's what they say at least. But I know they said this before, and not much happened. So we'll see what happens. Oh, Odense. Oh, right. Perito Brodersen also says, don't convert to Islam. You may lose everything like he did. Yeah, you may do that. It's sort of to burn bridges too, but then you're burning the wrong bridges. I would say that. So good evening to Perito, by the way. Sheldon Hofstadter says, a friend of my wife lives in Carlsbad, California, and she says California went nuts. Yeah. How long did it take for California to go nuts, by the way? Was it in a decade or something? Because that's an interesting question. How long time do you need to turn to to turn a state around that way? Charles Keatington says, Keatington here. Well, hello to you and good evening. I actually have to check that I plugged in the power to my laptop so it won't go. One moment. No, I didn't. One moment. Okay, a long moment. But it seems like you can all hear me, so I think the sound issues have been solved. And I think I know what happened 2 days ago when I was trying to live stream. Uh, it was my impatience. Okay, YouTube wasn't really communicating with the Google Hangouts, and I got impatient and I restarted the whole thing, and then nothing worked. So, well, you should be patient, as some people tell me sometimes. So I hope I learned my lesson now. Today everything was working smooth and nice. It wasn't that bad today. So I got it started right away today, and that's good. A Syrian king says Gerald Batten was advising people to educate themselves about Islam. Exactly what I was advising in that video. You mean the video when I interviewed you, or in the video you sent me? I guess maybe you did in both. And I would say that in one way I would be happy if people didn't need to learn about Islam, but we do. Alleluia says, "Good evening to all. Good evening to you too." Well, the reason we need to learn about Islam is because you have to understand what's going on to address it. It's like I need to know about Marxism and about leftist ideas, not to adhere to them, but because I have to understand what's going on to be able to address them and to, well, fight them. Laristan says, uh, Islam is targeting the indigenous people. Big worry. You did ask what was happening in other countries. I draw your attention to a trend in the New World. Oh, that's what you were. Oh, okay, I didn't really get what you were talking about, but now I see. So you're telling me that they are trying to convert, well, Aboriginals and Maoris and stuff like that? That's interesting. How are the indigenous people responding to this? Lori P says, I was in California in the 1980s. You never saw people living on the streets in tents. Now in Anaheim, near Disneyland, they have homeless, while refugees get free housing, etc. It's crazy. Yeah, I've seen a few videos on that in some other channels, and yeah, it's a crazy situation. Yeah, that's true. Tomorrow is the day of free speech in London, so I hope it will all go well. Right On says California is only nice for illegal immigrants and the filthy rich. Otherwise, the working class is moving away because of high taxes and home prices. I heard there was a movement of people from California to Texas. I sure hope they won't turn Texas left, though. So I hope they learn something and they don't keep on voting for these crazy policies. It's a little like if Swedes leave Sweden, I don't have a problem with that. But please don't vote in similar policies in your new home countries. And by the way, if I become an American citizen, I'm not going to vote left. Let me tell you that. La Resistance says, yes, a Swede speaks. They are falling for it as their beliefs are weak. Many are in the prisons and they are converted there and take it back on to the. Ah, I see. We're talking Prislam here. Yeah, and now you're touching on something important, La Resistance, because I used to say that without Christianity, the West will fall, uh, and And the reason for this is that, well, a secular Westerner uh, or a Western atheist will most likely rather convert to Islam than pay with his or her life. But if you're an actual Christian, if you actually believe in the gospel, you know that you shouldn't fear the one who can kill the body. You should fear the one who can harm your soul. And so that's really what we need. We need people with strong convictions to stand against this. If it's in Europe or in Australia, or, well, actually, no matter where it is in the world. Charles Keatington says, no, Texas is probably safe. J.R. Ewing's home state cannot become a lefty state. I certainly hope you're right about that. Yeah, well, we grew, actually, my generation, we grew up on Dallas in Sweden. I think those are my first memories related to America. That was watching Dallas as a kid. Paula P says, thank you for not voting left. Come on over. Well, I'm working on it. So I might be able to work to at least work for a Trump victory in 2020. I mean, I don't think I'll be able to vote that early. I don't know. I don't think so. But I might be able to campaign for him at least. So so I can tell people I came to your country because it's great and I want to keep it great. So vote Trump. I'll tell them something like that. Lori P says, my cousin moved from Oceanside, California to Heber City, Utah recently. He loves the difference it's made in his life. He feels happy and free now. Too much negative stuff in California. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think California is probably the last place I would move to in the United States. Probably. But there might be worse places I don't know about. Assyrian King says, Swede and Stephen Cray. This is another video from me and Nash Jones in Hyde Park. S corner against a young English idiot called Luke Nash Jones versus the Londonstani leftist speaker's corner. Okay, I need to look that up when I'm done with this live stream. It sounds interesting. Farnesius says, yes, they showed Dallas in Finland too. It was very popular here. Yeah, back in the 80s, we didn't have that much of a choice. I grew up in what is now known as DDR, Sverige, DDR, Sweden, which is really GDR, Sweden, the German Democratic Republic of Sweden. And what it means is that Sweden was almost like East Germany. So we didn't have much choice, well, in anything. It was really a very dull place. And of course, it was dull and safe. So I'd pick East German Sweden over jihadi Sweden any day in the week. But I don't want any of them. I want nice, free, and prosperous places. That's what I want. And that's why I'm opposed both to socialism and to Islam, because I don't think any of them will give us these nice, prosperous, and free places. Paula P says, we will take you working on a Trump train anytime. Oh, I will. Bill B says, hello, everyone. Well, hello to you too. Mark Edwards says, I think Trump should build his wall around California. Well, there is this secession movement in California. I don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong. I don't think so. I don't know if I missed something here. Charles Keatington says, Olof Palme or Stefan Löfven? Olof Palme started it. Yeah, I think Palme was the one who started, the East German version of Sweden, if that's what you're referring to. I think Palme, he did a lot of damage to Sweden, to put it that way. He is not my favorite guy. La Resistance says, I wish when the Californians moved, they would stop voting Democrat. They carry their philosophy with them. Not all, of course. Well, that's my point. If you if you leave, uh, and if you understand why you're leaving, if you're not just leaving because it's better in some other state, but if you understand why your state is going down the drain, if you understand which policies did this, then you can leave and you can work on improving your new state. But if you leave and you haven't understood this and you start working on pulling your new state down the drain, well, that's where I have a problem. Charles Keaton says, yes, you said that you preferred GDR Sweden over Jihadi Sweden. Oh, yeah, yeah, right. And the thing is, I don't like any of them. But if I have to choose between one of them, well, you didn't have any of these truck attacks in GDR Sweden. Not as far as I know, at least. But I don't want any of them. Assyrian King says, the other two videos called The War Will Happen, Trust Me. Oh, that's a good one. And the last one should be on the list of Swede Speaks list of videos. Yeah, I think the one you're referring to is called Assyrian King Talks About Islam and the West or something like that. I think that's what I named it. Stan says, Canada is really turning into California, especially Ontario, British Columbia, and Quebec. Illegal immigration really exploded thanks to Trudeau, but most Canadians seem to support it. It seems to me like I don't know about Canadians. If sometimes it seems like Canadians are like the Swedes, but on the other hand, I heard that Canadians were putting people on planes and sending them back really politely. And then you have the Canadian government who asked the US to enforce their borders, so I don't know. But I know that I'm not very fond of Trudeau, so I hope you get a better prime minister next year in your election. Timothy Goddard says, I live in the free state of New Hampshire. I'm so happy I don't live in California or New York. I could see that one. And feel free to tell us what's going on in New Hampshire. What's the news in your town or your state? And I don't think I would like to live in New York either, but I think I will. I think I will visit New York this summer. I think so. I've only been to is it JFK? I think that's what it's called. The international airport in New York. I was there for a few hours last year, but well, then I was only at the airport. Farnesius says Justin Trudeau is for unlimited abortion rights. I can imagine he is, and well, I assume everyone already knows, but I'm pro-life, so that's not my cup of tea. Sheldon Hofstadter says, I recommend a video with a Palestinian ex-Muslim who is a son of a Hamas leader. Search Islam and End Time Prophecy, Mossab Hassan Youssef on YouTube. Yeah, Mossab, that's a good guy. I think he wrote a book. That's the Green Prince, right? Oh, right. Yeah, that's the son of Hamas. Yeah, I read his book a few years ago, and I've seen a few videos with him. Paula P says, it's Kentucky Derby here today and soaking wet. Oh, okay. Well, it's spring in Oslo, Norway, so it's getting warmer. I think it was something like 16 degrees Celsius earlier today. That would be 50, 55 Fahrenheit, something like that. Lori P says, I lived in upstate New York when my late husband was in the military. Watertown, New York. It's similar to most rural settings in Ohio. I would never live in New York City. Yeah, that's interesting. I agree, and that's interesting because when I was more of a left libertarian some 10 years ago, my goal was to move to New York City. But, well, then I became Christian conservative, and now No, I don't want to live in a place like that. I would much rather live in a small town in the Midwest, somewhere where people have traditional Christian values. That's where I want to be. And I mean, I can live anywhere. I have my values, and I will keep to them. But you have to think about the next generation too. You want your future children to grow up in a good place, or at least I want that. Sheldon says, "Yes, that's him. Yeah, yeah, he's good. I've seen a few videos with him, and I read that book. There's a few chapters in there that are really interesting. Yes, I'm writing on one, and hopefully I will be I will be done with writing that book before the general election in Sweden on September 9th. I hope so. So I'm writing on understanding Sweden, and hopefully I'll be able to get it published and out there before the Swedish election. We'll see, but that's my plan. La Resistance says Islam will destroy all of countries. Well, sure, if you allow it in and if you don't stop it, uh, that's what happens. Uh, I don't know of I don't know of a single Islamic country that's a good place, but there could be one or two. I just don't know of any of these places. I guess people might say Bosnia, but as I said, in Bosnia you have radicalization going. At least that's what I hear. So that doesn't sound good to me. So yeah, I agree. Islam is a really bad idea, to put it that way. Sheldon says Islam will sure not destroy Poland. No, the Poles seem to be able to. They seem to be on top of things when it comes to Islam. Hopefully, the EU won't be able to force them to open up their borders, because, well, I think all countries should decide their own migration policies. And I can agree or disagree with the policies as such. I still think every country should get to decide their own policies. Mark Edwards says some parts of Indonesia are okay, for now at least. Okay, well, maybe some parts are. Other parts are not that good, from what I've heard. But that's true. I haven't heard much from Indonesia. There are many other Islamic countries that's pretty terrible. Assyrian King says, uh, this is the latest video from Mossab Hassan Youssef, son of Hamas in UN. Please watch this and watch the face of those Arab guys, shocked UN delegates as PLO abuses exposed by Palestinian hero. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Absolutely. And Charles Keatington says the Bosniaks are Sunni, aren't they? I think so. I mean, most most of the Muslims are. The Shia is Iran, and I'm not sure. It's Iran and maybe some other country. Lori P says, I agree. Islam does not bring peace, and they even kill their own people off. Nothing peaceful about Islam. Now that's interesting. When they say that Islam is the religion of peace, well, then my response is, which kind of peace? And is the peace of submission, but it really means you have to submit to this ideology, and you're not allowed to question anything. And if you do, you're in big trouble. They might kill you. And there has been some people claiming that if it wasn't for the death penalty for leaving Islam, there wouldn't be any Islam anymore. But people are too afraid to leave Islam because they get killed. I mean, I could understand that to some point, but well, that's the point. Valhalla Dome says the history of the Philippines is interesting, and how the Spanish at their time got almost the whole of the country de-Islamized. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know. I know there are some Muslims on the Philippines, but I didn't know that. You're telling me that that Filipinos were Muslims before they became Catholics, something like that. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I need to look into that, but that's interesting. Because if you look at it the other way around, Northern Africa and the Middle East were Christian areas, and they had high Christian cultures, and then they were Islamized, and uh, and they turned into failed states. Timothy Goddard says the Church of Jesus, Christian, is the only true religion. The West has to turn away from both Muslims and communism. Well, yeah, I would say from both Islam and communism, but, well, I guess that's the same point. Assyrian King says Muhammad doesn't like dogs, burn the trees, call women stupid, hate literally everything and everybody. Yeah, and he's supposed to be the perfect person who you cannot criticize, and if you do, well, you're in trouble. So, yeah, that's interesting. Valhalla Dome says whole country. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Lori P says Christians will not kill you if you decide one day you no longer believe in God. They will let you go and pray for you or help you, but they won't chop off your head. You won't. They won't chop off your head over it. Islam will. Yeah, that's the difference. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and Muhammad was a warlord. So there's a big difference there. When they brought the woman, the woman to Jesus, the one they caught in the act of what's the word? Well, you, the woman for a stoning, and he said, "Let the one without sin cast the first stone." No one threw any stones because they couldn't. While when a similar situation happened to Muhammad, he made sure the woman was stoned. I think so. I read it somewhere. Adultery, says Charles. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Larry Sistan says you die if you do not convert, and you die if you leave. What choices do they leave you? They don't leave you any choice. Or I mean, the only choice they leave you is that you have to resist. You have to stand up against evil, even when it costs you, because it's going to cost you even more not to. So, as Jesus said, you should fear the one. You shouldn't fear the one who can kill the body. You should fear the one who can harm your soul. So we've been online for a little more than an hour, and there are 27 people watching. So that's good. That's great. Thank you all for being here. I'm very happy that you're here. There have been a few people showing up. Well, in the last few minutes, I think. So welcome to everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me. That's wonderful. So I see I see some names I recognize from before, and I'm happy that you're coming back. So well, what's the reason you keep coming back? The people who do, because I see there are some people who I think have been here since my very first, or at least my second live stream, and I've been doing these live streams since February, I think. Yeah, I think it was February. The first one I did when I was in the Midwest, and then I was trying it out. So, well, that's how I got this started. So, okay, I'll. So the question, what I'd like to know is, what keeps you, or what makes you come back to this channel and to these live streams, and is there something you would want me to talk about in live streams, or make videos about? And I can't make videos about everything I would like to, but I'm always open to ideas. Margaret Mary says to hear a Swedish voice. Oh, good to know. Uh, uh, Thank you for that. I'll try to. I'll try to do that. Valhalla Dome says I have been following your channel with great interest. Yeah, you've been around for quite a while now, I think. Stephen Cray says I wanted to hear the truth from Sweden from a nice guy. Oh, thank you. Well, yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that because, well, I think I'm pretty nice. Paula P says I like to learn about your country and your point of view on the USA. Yeah, I probably have a pretty unique perspective, both when it comes to Sweden and to the United States, since I'm a lot more conservative than most Swedes. Well, in what we might call the Anglo-American sense or Anglo-Saxon conservatism or something like that, and that's a philosophy that's not very common in Sweden, sadly. It should be, but it's not. So I think my take on things is a little different. Assyrian King says, I would advise especially women to read about Kirfa, uh, Ezra bint Marwan, and how they were executed on Muhammad's order. Also, how he married Safiya. Okay, Safiya, I haven't heard of her, but let's see. Valhalla Dome says, I have been following your channel with great. Oh, I already said that. Oh, Valhalla Dome. Oh, this is the one I'm looking for. Weekly update is great. I lived in Sweden for 6 years. Yeah, that's right. That's you. Uh, where in Sweden did you live? You probably told me before, but I get a lot of comments. Right Pro HD says, really waiting for the Oslo conditions video. Well, my plan is to upload it on Monday sometime. Probably Monday evening if you're in the Central European time zone, Sweden or something like that. Then it will be in the evening. It will be afternoon in America. Lori P says, I had a pastor speak out on this issue with Islam back in 1991. I really didn't believe him, but he was 100% correct back then on what Islam was doing, taking over, raping, etc. Yeah, and I should comment on that too sometime. A lot of the Christians in Scandinavia, at least in Sweden and Norway, I have been told that the Danes are more to the right. Maybe they are, but in Sweden and Norway, there are a lot of Christians who are very naive when it comes to Islam, sadly. And they will use these arguments that you should love your fellow man or you should love your neighbor. So you shouldn't say anything nasty about Islam because that's bad, and then you're a racist. Because they confuse Islam with with immigrants or with Muslims or with brown people or something like that. And Islam has nothing to do with that. Islam is a set of ideas. It's an ideology. It's really a totalitarian ideology dressed up as religion. That's the way I view it, and I should be just as it should be as justified to criticize Islam as to criticize communism. And if you criticize communism, no one accuses you of hating Russians or Venezuelans or Cubans or something like that. But yeah, the problem with a lot of Scandinavian Christians are that they think it's somehow racist to criticize Islam, or they think that, well, Muslims at least believe in something as opposed to atheists. And to that, I usually respond that, well, Satanists also believe in something. Not all of them get the point, though, but I think you get my point. Valhalla Dome says, south of Stockholm. Oh, okay. I grew up south of Stockholm, so I know that area. T42 says Muhammad was a white Arab. I don't really know what he looked like. I know that the Arabs have been mixing with the neighboring peoples. Well, everyone's been mixing with their neighbors. That's sort of a thing. But I know he was a slave owner, and as far as I know, there's nothing in Islam that that's that's against slavery as such. While in Christianity, it was Christians that stopped slavery because here is neither Greek nor Jew, and And if you read some of the letters of Paul, they condemn slavery. So when people say that, I can't actually give you the verse right now because I don't remember where it was, but I can look into it if anyone wants to know. But Christianity is really against slavery, while Islam isn't. That's my point. And the slavery in the Old Testament was not like chattel slavery in the American South, if someone thinks so. It wasn't. Maybe the slavery that the Hebrews had in Egypt, that probably was pretty close to it. Charles Keatington says, ideas have no rights. People have rights, but Islam doesn't recognize that. Exactly. I'm all for individual rights, and I'm not for ideas' rights. Exactly. And I mean, to me, you're allowed to criticize my faith and my philosophy all day long. Of course, if you do that all the time in the chat, I might kick you out. But I don't want the police to go after you. I don't want anyone to kill you or something like that. Laurie P says, Islam had no problem enslaving black Africans. That's true. And the Islamic slave trade was horrible. I mean, all slave trade is horrible, just to get that on the table. But the Islamic slave trade, well, they castrated all the men, I think, and a lot of them died. And they used the women as sex slaves. And I saw a DNA study recently, and it said that there is African DNA that shows up in the Middle East because they used African women as sex slaves, but a lot of them don't want to talk about that. But it shows up in their DNA. I found that interesting. Valhalla Dome says, I have a question. Why is it so hard to convince people and open their eyes? In 2015 autumn, I was every morning at T-centralen. Oh, that's the main metro station in Stockholm, and hence saw the chaos firsthand. One of many examples I experienced. You know, I have wondered the same thing, but I have a theory on this, or I have an idea about the reason for this. And I think a lot of people have invested a lot of, time or money or prestige into, let's call it multiculturalism, although it's really about replacing Western civilization with Islam. It's not about multiculturalism, really. It's about replacing one monoculture with another monoculture. But anyway, I think the thing is, a lot of people, they just can't admit that they were wrong because they don't want to lose face, something like that. Plus, a lot of people depend on, at least officially, believing this stuff because of, well, you know, in Sweden, if you are openly anti-Islam, you could lose your job. You might not get a new job. You can get in all sorts of troubles. So I think there are a lot of people who don't want to think. They don't want to look into this because it costs too much. And I still think that's cowardly. Just for the record, I think you should do the right thing anyway. And yes, it will cost you to do the right thing. It will cost you even more not to do the right thing. Because if you don't do the right thing, you can't even sleep at night. Or at least, that's what I think. And you know, I had to look into these things a few years ago. Before I go on, I'll read this. Charles Keatington says, multiculturalism is a word for Islamization. Exactly. And Valhalla Dome says, avoidance of cognitive dissonance. Yeah, that's true. That I agree with both of you. That exactly. Well put. Where was I? Yeah, back in 2014. Actually, it started in 2013. Sometime late 2013, I started questioning the Marxist ideas that I had been adhering to for a few years then. And to begin with, I left what you could call the hard Marxism. And I tried to become a social democrat. I tried to take sort of a middle of the road position, but I couldn't stay there because I realized I was still wrong. I was just not as wrong as before, but I was just So then I really had to look into all these ideas, into Marxism, into Islam, into what's going on around me, into third wave feminism, identity politics, and well, it ended up I came out of this process as a conservative Christian. Uh, I really didn't have a choice because when I started looking at it with open eyes, I couldn't take any other position. And well, Charles Keatington says, speaking out has cost me both money and friends. I think we share that experience, really. And, I don't like to complain because I don't like people who complain, but I think it the actual consequences of taking a stand and to mention what happened in your own life. I think that's completely legit. Uh, and yeah, so when I did make when I made the choice to look at things openly and to go where the facts led me, I didn't understand the price I was going to pay. But well, I burned the bridges behind me, and here I am. That's the way it goes. Valhalla Dome says, so then a way to convert people would be to change the values of the payoff matrix. Then people will see their errors. Uh, Being open about this is essential. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it's horrible the way people are treated for speaking out against Islam in Sweden, in the UK, even in Norway, and in Finland, and in many other countries, in Canada, I think. I think it's horrible. And at the same time, I don't have a choice. And I mean, that's just the way it is. And it's horrible. But I still think you have to do it because you have to do the right thing. And I guess that's kind of a Christian moral or something like that. That you do the right thing, even if it costs you. Because if you don't, well, thou shalt not lie, to quote the Ten Commandments. And I lost both friends and family. And what I have to say about this today is the people who I thought were my friends, and not all of them were on the traditional left. Some of them were on the so-called right. But when they left, okay, they were not my friends because that friendship was only valid as long as I didn't think certain things. And sure, I would say there are some things that I mean, if some of my friends suddenly would turn into a national socialist, I would try to talk to the person first, if it was an actual personal friend. But if the person persisted, I would probably say that, okay, we don't have anything in common. I'm sorry. Let's see. Charles Keatington says, Us Nguyen is an idiot. I read an interesting article of his Middle Eastern way of thinking. According to that article, it was a clash of cultures. Well, the interview that Janne Josefsson made in a Swedish TV show with Us Nguyen, that was an obvious clash. And I think, well, it was Western mentality clashing with a Middle Eastern mindset. Yeah. And I mean, Us Nguyen probably won the debate in his own clan and in his specific culture or subculture. But I think most Swedes or most Westerners who saw this thought he acted like a fool. I mean, I thought so. I think Janne Josefsson won by not playing the same game, by just exposing. I think when he saw that Us Nguyen would go off the rails, when he just allowed him to do so, I mean, I think he knew that he was going to lose big time. I mean, I think Janne Josefsson knew this. Let's see. Valhalla Dome says, you are a courageous person. Thanks. Well, thank you for your kind words. I just do what I think needs to be done. And I don't want to do anything stupid or anything crazy. When I walked around a few days ago and took pictures of places on Oslo East, places where there had been crime going on. I only took pictures. I didn't say anything because if I would have walked around recording and talking, I might have been in trouble. And I mean, I'm one man. I don't think I can defend myself if a bunch of people attacks me. So I wouldn't do anything crazy, but if I have to defend myself, I will. If you get my drift. Charles Keatington says a Swede speaks culture of guilt, Christian versus culture of shame or honor, middle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, because as a Christian, I know that I should be ashamed. If I do something wrong, I know I should be ashamed. I should admit that I did something wrong, and I should say I'm sorry, and I should try not to do it again. Something like that. While in a Middle Eastern mindset, as far as I understand, instead you attack the other one. You just have to keep your family's or your clan's honor, and then you can sort of do whatever you want as long as you get away with it. Something like that. William Marshall says Muslims openly call black people raisin heads. I've heard that actually. I have an ex-Muslim friend in Sweden. I interviewed him around New Year, and he said he wrote the same thing in an article recently. He said that the most open racism towards black people in Swedish schools comes from Middle Eastern or people of Middle Eastern background, which I think is sad, but well, that's the facts. Assyrian King says latest news for football fans: Alex Ferguson had a brain hemorrhage and is in hospital. Well, I hope he gets well. I mean, I don't really watch football, but I hope he gets well. I've heard his name though. Sheldon Hofstadter says some 10 years ago, I was considering moving to Sweden. Now I'm happy I didn't follow this dream. I'm fine in Prague. Oh, so you live in Prague? I think I would like to visit Prague. I don't know when that's going to happen, but as I said, I plan to visit all European capitals and all US states. That's sort of one of my plans. And of course, I want to go to Jerusalem and stuff like that too. Of course. And other places. But yeah, so I would like to go to Prague one day. Well, I see some. I have 24 likes. That's great. 2 dislikes too, but I guess, well, the dislike. I guess there is a dislike squad showing up too. That's fine. I mean, I'm sort of a polarizing person, I suppose. I mean, you're either for or against me, so I can live with that. And there are 30 people watching. That's great too. Thank you for being here. And if you haven't done this already, please share this live stream. Yeah, share this live stream on. Send it to your family and friends. Share it on social media. Do all that good stuff. And well, actually, we've been online for almost 90 minutes now. It went pretty fast today, I think. So that's great. Sealansen says Mohammed used the term. Yes, the raisin has terms about the black Africans. Yeah, Mohammed was he was a horrible racist, I think, and a lot of other bad stuff. So the whole idea that Muhammad was the perfect man or the perfect person, that's really insanity. I can't call it anything else. And let's see. Charles Keatington says the article is called När Öss mötte Janne, en kulturkrock mellan islam och skuld, åt ledarsidorna. Oh, right. My favorite social democrat wrote about that. That's true. When Öss met Janne, a cultural clash between shame and guilt. Yes. T42 says a Muslim Brotherhood guy said if people weren't so afraid of being killed for leaving Islam, Islam would collapse. Oh, that's where it was. William Marshall says, I'm sorry, Swede, I have to go. Work to do. Thank you and God bless everyone. Well, thank you for hanging out here. And God bless you too. And see you some other day. Valhalla Dome says, the personal costs of staying in Sweden were simply unacceptable. I left at costs. Nevertheless, I have friends in Sweden too. But since I'm not native Swedish, I decided to stand up for my, I guess you mean for my country. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think you might be Dutch or American. I'm a little confused. But yeah, I completely get you. You know, I have lived in Norway for 12 years, and when people ask me, "Don't you want to move to Sweden?" Well, honestly, no. I don't want to move to Sweden. I wouldn't recommend anyone to move to Sweden, and I'm sorry to say that because I would wish to be able to recommend people to do that, but I can't because of the state of affairs in Sweden, and I don't see things getting. I see that the rhetorics in Sweden is changing. They talk the talk, sort of, but will they walk the walk? And I guess I'm kind of closing on this. We've been online for about 1.5 hours. So if you have any closing comments, this is the time. And thank you all for hanging out with me this afternoon, or evening, or morning, depending on where in the world you happen to be. And check in with me again next week. Hopefully, I'll do a midweek live stream next week, probably on Thursday. I think so, because on Tuesday I might have other stuff I need to do. Uh, and also, as I said, I intend to make a video on the Oslo conditions on Monday. So check that out. So, well, until next time, have a nice day, have a nice weekend, and well, I'll have a look to see if there were any closing comments here. Okay, Sealansen says, why did you originally leave Sweden? Originally, I left Sweden, well, for economic reasons. Uh, I had a job in Sweden, but it wasn't going very well. I didn't get enough hours. It wasn't a very good job. And I was trying to find another job in the town I was living, but it was difficult. So then I thought, okay, what do I do? So I decided to go to Oslo. That was back in 2006. And that's really why I left Sweden in the first place. And after 1 year, I actually wanted to move back. But then I decided to give it another year, and I'm still here. But I probably won't be here for very much longer. But I've been 12 years in Norway, and Norway versus Sweden, I think Norway is at least not as bad as Sweden, but I'm seeing the same kind of problems showing up here too. So, well, that's about it. So, as I said, thank you all for hanging out, and until next time, have a nice day, and God bless.